Hello, today is May 4th, and this is the etcd community meeting. The first topic of our agenda is by James. James, do you want to ask or give your own lessons?
Yeah, so this will just be pretty quick. I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts after KubeCon EU. Overall, I think from an etcd perspective, it went pretty awesome. We had a few talks. We had the Contrib Fest with a pretty decent turnout. We had some PRs merge on the day there and there. And just a couple of quick thoughts for the next one. So if we get the opportunity to do another Contrib Fest at an upcoming KubeCon, I think we had a decent amount of kind of website-y, like straightforward issues, like docs-related stuff for people to work on. We probably need to spend a little bit more time getting a few more good first issues for the etcd code base itself, because it would have been nice to get a few more PRs merged there is kind of my takeaway from that. The talk had a really good turnout, and hopefully you had some good feedback on that. Marek, I see you've got a topic on that coming up. So yeah, that's it from me. I think it went really well. And hopefully we can do more of the same at upcoming KubeCons.
Yeah, from my side, it was like, for me, it was amazing because we went a year ago from 0 talks about etcd to 3. One was in Detroit and now 3 talks. We managed to host, thanks to Josh and everyone who attended. We got not only talks, we got Contrib Fest, we got booth. And next time, I think I can even motivate more maintainers to use more of the CNCF resources. I think I didn't only use one, which was the press, but maybe if anyone wants to do interviews for CNCF, that would be awesome. But yeah, I think we can just go further, use more CNCF resources and scale up the event next time.
Yeah,
and of course the image.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm taking away from it is that people are interested in contributing to etcd, including new people. We just need to sort of be out there so that they can actually find us and get started.
Yeah, definitely the finding us was also my conclusion, that it was too hard to find any information about etcd, and there is a lot of not great information about etcd. So definitely on my side, it's being more vocal and make it more obvious what community is doing, because if people cannot find us or Google us, they will not know that they can help. Okay, going to the next topic. Vikas, are you here?
Hi, Marek, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So, Marek, we are from Oracle. I have been joining the last few calls, and I have my colleague Kunal as well today. So, I was trying to get some folks to join as members and contribute. So, I was taking the terms of the use of CNCF cluster with our legal team, and they had this question. I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't know whether you got a chance to go through it. So, there are statements about what users should do and what they should not do within the cluster, right? So looks like there is no knowingly clause there. So if someone ends up doing something unknowingly, there's no indemnity provided in the terms. So this is more of a legal question, and we just wanted to make sure that we are aligned with our legal team. So
yeah.
I know this is more for the CNCF cluster and not directly for etcd, but I thought of starting here because this is our main interest right now.
Yeah, I can connect you with CNCF Legal. I wanted to be clear on why do we have to do these terms of service in order to contribute to etcd?
So My understanding is that our CI environment is on CNCF cluster.
Okay.
So as a part of our contributions, we'll need to run tests on CNCF cluster and we'll need to access it.
Okay. Okay, can you ping me on etcd Slack or email or something? And I'll connect you with CNCF Legal.
Sounds good, Josh. I'll follow up on Slack then. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Cool. That's all I
Okay.
had. Thanks, Malik.
Thanks. Awesome to have this like quickly resolved and have clear answers. I didn't have answers, so thanks, Josh, for handling this. Okay, going to next topic, as we have a lot of topics, and if anyone has more topics, feel free to add. I will just speed up my points. KubeCon talks or videos from the KubeCon are out. Those are all talks that we had about etcd, including one maintainer track, one session, one from about scaling up or handling big clusters, and one on operating etcd. Please watch them. They're pretty good. At least I watched two. I still need to watch the third one. And yeah, like the community is here. Like I think I'm here. Grita is here. So if you have any questions, we are here to I don't know if anyone help or like clarify things. I have also contact to Marcel that did the talk. So yeah, there is a lot of knowledge that is maybe kept within close community or like people that really dig in, but I think that's not great, and we should share as much knowledge and answer as much questions as we can. So yeah, feel free to ask questions here or like reach out on the etcd Slack. So if there are no questions for now, I assume you're just too shy to give them. But going to the next topic, I noticed there is an KubeCon NA call for proposals, which reminds me that I want to submit a talk for the next one. This time, I will try to use the normal CFP route, and if assuming that no one wants to use the maintainer track sessions, but just note we have as a CNCF project, we have a maintainer track session, which means you get a free slot without going through the CFP, assuming that we are talking about the project of what is happening. There are some rules, and it needs a maintainer approval, so a maintainer needs to pass it through. But assuming that you're knowledgeable and you talk about etcd, I think it shouldn't be a problem. At least based on Kubernetes community, I've seen a lot of cases of people, like any people being able to do a simple a talk and having benefits of or giving people ability to do that. It really empowers the community. So I think it would be better if someone else can take the maintainer track session. I mean, not pointing to any new members, but would be great if someone is on their side. So yeah, one of the things is I'm not sure if I will be able to travel. So it means that I would also want someone to take over this. That it's much safer, or cover it by person that has much higher probability of being on KubeCon, or knows that they will be on KubeCon.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind there is a fund to help maintainers go to KubeCon in the CNCF. I mean, like everything else, there's more requests than there is money usually, but you would be completely eligible for that, particularly if you got a talk accepted.
Sure. But it still stands that if anyone, I mean, most on Kubernetes side, most people do similar presentation every year of an intro into the project, which is like pretty good, or like the best way to promote people to just get in. and discuss the current ongoing effort by discussing ongoing efforts. So
Yeah.
and it's not
See,
so
So
hard.
I was just going to jump in quickly. I will be there, and I'm happy to volunteer to do something like some kind of joint session. One thing I think it would be good to cover, irrespective of what that section like covers for the rest of it, is the new membership model. Like we've put it in place recently, and it's picking up speed, and we've got some new members involved. I think it'd be good to make sure that's covered as part of the session around how folks can get involved and what that new membership model looks like and what some of the results of that have been. Yeah, so I'll be there, and I'm super happy to work with some maintainers or contributors to run something.
Yeah. Keep in mind, we potentially get, if they're doing project sessions as well, we could potentially get a project session as well as a maintainer session if we have different topics for those.
I don't know what's the project session, but sounds great.
Project meeting. Sorry, project meeting.
Okay.
The thing we did on Tuesday in Amsterdam.
Yeah. But
I think the chairs were happy with those, and I think they're planning on doing them again for Chicago.
Oh, nice.
That's
different audience. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about topics because the other thing I was thinking that would be good for us to do some KubeCon or another, and maybe this is a talk to submit to a main track. I can't submit this. I don't have enough knowledge. Would be a sort of basics of etcd performance configuration and troubleshooting, because one of the things that we hear all the time about people, particularly people who are like saying, that they want to use something else to back Kubernetes, is about performance. And I think part of that is that people have no idea how to set up etcd for good performance.
So yeah, I also was interested. Like my talk was somewhat in that area. I think.
Okay.
Interestingly, that was covered somewhat by the talk on the last KubeCon by Marcel, which is it's usually not problem with etcd, it's problem with people abusing API server incorrectly, and that's outside of a little bit outside of my scope. But I would want to give maybe do a talk about brief overview of how using of etcd has evolved, or how configuration has evolved. But yeah, we'll see.
I can help with this because there's a bunch of basics too that I'm telling you people don't know. Like, hey, don't have etcd writing its storage to S3.
Yeah, I remember you bringing up. Yeah, like maybe more advanced is
that would go without saying, but it doesn't.
Yeah, more advanced is run 2 etcds instead of 1, but
yeah,
but I don't know. I haven't tried it on people, but most people don't know that it's usually recommended to run events separately from Kubernetes events from the rest of the objects.
Okay. Well, regardless of what kind of session it is, if there's anybody here whose knowledge of etcd performance goes beyond mine, which would not be hard, who could collaborate with me on it, I'd like to get that proposal in for KubeCon North America. I think it would be valuable for users and attendees.
I would be somewhat interested, so maybe let's think.
Okay.
Just a very short note to say we also had a few inquiries at the booth that were kind of around the performance benchmarking as well. So it sort of ties in there also.
That's interesting, but that's hard. I mean, somewhat. Yeah, that's hard because I would want to define SLOs for etcd, and as a sanity checks for people. This is something that Kubernetes also does. So what is the latency that you should expect? And if it doesn't, your cluster is broken, and so people can monitor it. Because not everyone uses Prometheus and Grafana and whatever alerts that were created some time ago. So we have to have one document that describes everything. The only problem I stumbled is there is no watch latency measurement, and I have some ideas about this, but that's long term. for in the future how to solve it. Okay, so we basically gone through the next topic, so I will just drop it. Yeah, Josh, you can. Let's go.
Yeah, I raised this in the fall, but then CNCF had some staff turnover that interfered getting this set up, and I wanted to double check before I revived the ticket. This we're on Google Meet and somebody's personal account.
So this is to be
Yeah.
frank, this is a Google corporate account.
Okay, so it's a Google corporate account. Yeah.
So
The,
basically, it's maintained by Googlers. That's usually there was like this meeting was hosted by Googler, and this
Yeah.
is a corporate account, so that's why there is no limit.
Yeah.
I mean, like for
Yeah.
the versus free account. On the topic that we discussed, I was also pushing. I mean, I don't remember how we got there, but I was also pushing this until I got a notification that we would basically need to lose access to the YouTube channel.
our existing YouTube channel.
So
Alright.
CNCF can only push to CNCF YouTube channel, or their managed channel, which means the current channel would need to go, and I don't know what we would need to either migrate videos, or I don't know what would happen with videos, and stuff.
Yeah, well, if we want, so it's a question of whether or not we want automated publishing, right? If we want fully automated publishing, as in meeting is over, the video gets automatically published, then yeah, it has to be the CNCF one. We can manually publish to existing channel if we wanted to go that way. So it's actually sort of two separate steps, right? One is, do we want to use CNCF Zoom? And then the second question is, do we want to use the CNCF YouTube for future meetings so that we can have auto publishing? And those are sort of, we don't actually have to do both things. I mean, I'd like to do both things just because it's less work, but there might be good reasons not to.
I don't care much about auto publishing. I do the publish of the videos. Hope I try to be on schedule. I use Zoom for other community meetings on Kubernetes side and manage it. I don't if people would prefer to use Zoom, I think we should definitely go with that. If it's not a big change, I don't have an opinion. But it's up to people that what tool they prefer. I mean, it would be nice that someone outside of Googlers could take over, but the problem is, that's also hard to organize the meeting.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, the other advantage of being on CNCF Zoom is it means that the CNCF staff actually have the credentials for that. So that if we had an unexpected change, like I'm going through the experience right now of having had a maintainer on a project pass away unexpectedly on another project, that it's very useful to be able to fall back on the CNCF staff for credentials.
Yes, that's true. That's sad realization. Okay, let's think on that. I think we can. We need proper announcement of that.
I'll put up an issue and let people +1 it or whatever. So
sounds great.
Take a look for that.
Okay, James, do you want to share awareness?
Yeah. So, would you mind just opening up that GitHub issue, please, Marek? Yeah. So. I won't spend super long on this, just a minute or so, but I just want to let everyone on the call know that this is a thing. So for a while, etcd has had the issue triage guidelines. Those haven't been refreshed since the new membership model kicked in, which obviously changed the responsibilities and roles for the project. So I'm pretty keen to do a refresh of that, and at the same time, I'd be quite keen to try and align where it makes sense with more of some of the standard, let's say, Kubernetes approaches to some of the triage. So I wouldn't mind just very quickly rolling through the list of tasks that I've got there, Merrick. If you jump up the top of those. Yeah, so first one just around priorities. At the moment for HCD, we just have kind of this one, like, I think it's priority critical that we sort of triage some issues with, and it's kind of inconsistent how it's used. There's actually like well-defined priorities for Kubernetes, and I think it makes sense to maybe align with those and allow us to just reuse those same priority labels for Kubernetes when we're triaging. So that's one. Then there's removing the old priority, priority important, and updating to use the new for those issues. And then updating the triage issues doc to add some more kind of practical examples of how members can actually do triage. So we've got this kind of new group of members in the project, and it isn't super clear like what we should do when we triage issues. We, some of us are doing it, but we're just kind of fumbling our way around. So I think having a more kind of explicit bit of guidance in that document about how we triage issues and what some examples might be would be useful. And there's also the list of area labels. So I don't think those have kind of been updated in a little while. It's pretty decent, but I think there are a few gaps. So I just want to have a look at those and propose any changes, additions, I think. And then looking at the upstream Kubernetes area labels when we do that also. Then we've got our issue templates. So we want to make sure it's super easy for people to report issues and report issues with the right supporting information and try and like reduce the amount of actual triage that we need to do in the first place. I think they're pretty decent, but I just think we need to take a close look at them and maybe raise any changes if we want to. So kind of all of these things are potentially resulting in separate pull requests or separate requests to the maintainers to update labels and things. But I just wanted to kind of roll through them to make sure everyone's aware of what I've got in mind. And oh yeah, Stalebot. So there's a bunch of things that have been closed after over the last kind of year or so by Stalebot. Some of them probably shouldn't be closed. Some of them are actually pretty important, I think. So I'm planning to spend a little bit of time just going back through, once we've got these new guidelines in place and like the areas and priorities and whatnot, just go back through and see if I can find any that actually maybe should be alive and kicking. There's an etcd dev mailing list, couple of posts around that, just so we don't lose sight of them. And also as part of the update to triage issues, I would like to suggest we have like a stronger support policy in there that suggests or just kind of says to people, hey, when it comes to support, we try and provide general broad-based kind of support that would help everyone rather than like granular, like one-to-one support on individual issues where possible. Like obviously we're not going to stop helping people, but it's around how we help people. So that's something I want us to have a clearer kind of policy on so that we do have stronger grounds to say to people, hey, this is an individual support thing. We've actually got some broader guidance here, or actually we're going to put together some broader guidance on this rather than doing just individual response to an individual person. So anyway, that's me. That's the suggestions and things I want to work on. This is just an invitation for anyone who has opinions on those things to please give your feedback in the issue. And I'll just work my way through over the coming sort of month or two on some of these tasks and try and get some of it done. I don't think there's any rush, but just letting folks know.
This sounds really awesome. I think you already collected 2 likes from me and Benjamin. Yeah, I think like we discussed, I just copied like the templates, and the issue triage policy is mostly from Kubernetes. We just need to like take them and start using and just implement them. And overall, it reminds me that I need to define like priorities or work with maintainers to clarify priorities to make the basis, create the basis for the labels or triage here to make them clear. Yeah, so please ping me if I'm too lazy about that. But yeah, that's on my side. Okay, I don't hear any comments. Next topic, we have still 2 minutes, so I will use it. Please, there is a document. It's, I would say, it's important, at least in my opinion. It defines, me and Han and Joe are working, or with help from Joe, we are working on making the to clarifying the contract between etcd and Kubernetes. It's pretty important because there are many things that are in the contract that are untested and were broken, and we already found out. Yesterday I created an issue for it, so if you're interested, I think it's here. And the end goal is to implement like for me, it's to implement a fake of etcd that someone can use, that not someone, but API server can use to run tests, and we can verify the contract both ways. Hope it will turn out as easy as I hope, as easy that we can do it. There are of course many problems that we cannot anticipate, but this is pretty important, and I would want this is my priority, and I would want to make sure that everyone it's clear that also important for projects because we had bugs in the contract that Kubernetes was broken or etcd was broken and providing incorrect some behaviors to API server. Okay, Josh, do you want to?
Yeah, this is related to that, right? Which is one of the big questions that came up out of KubeCon this year is how many people are using etcd for something that's not Kubernetes? And we don't really know. Because when we had the project meeting, it was basically none. It was me and one of the other contributors. But at other stuff in the booth, we got different responses, and so I'd like to actually do an organized survey because it kind of affects the future planning of etcd, right? And what we focus on is whether or not we're really supporting users who are using it for things that are not Kubernetes, or whether those users don't really exist. So anybody who's interested in that, go ahead and ping me on Slack or whatever. And I'm going to be trying to put some work on that and get it out this summer.
Yeah. Where would you send that out?
Through the various CNCF channels and social media, of course.
Okay. I don't think we are a non-Kubernetes user of etcd, and I don't think we would be subscribed to any of those. So as long as, I'm sure we'll also mention it here, but this is the only forum, I guess, where we would see it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and you're, want to hear from you. Yes, obviously through the etcd community itself, right? So etcd dev, Slack, as a GitHub issue, well, that's less visible. But yeah.
Okay, that's all the topics that we have here. We are a minute past time.
Sorry, I have a quick question on the contract. Will that be extended to clarify performance requirements as well over time?
Yeah, sure. We already have scalability SLOs for Kubernetes, and these implicitly define, the performance aspects that we expect from etcd. And this is already written in a separate doc. So I don't see the reason to merge the SLO scalability stuff into this stock, because it's not really part of the API surface.
So the SLO for Kubernetes is for the end user of Kubernetes.
Yes.
This is a different translation of that. It's between API server and etcd. So it would help if we could have a not really SLO, but at least clarify the performance requirements from Kubernetes side towards etcd.
I mean, Kubernetes itself is capable of functioning with a really slow version of etcd, as K3s has already demonstrated, right? Because like there are distributions of Kubernetes that use basically polling-based watches, and they are capable of functioning and doing these things. So I'm not sure that there is an expectation that's not the SLO contracts of Kubernetes.
So really slow, if we can quantify that's what I mean. For example, we bring in a new platform, ARM64 coming up. How do we measure it's ready for Kubernetes performance? I think the best tool today would be scalability test. That's the advice I have received, which is good. But if we could have a test that does not depend on bringing up a Kubernetes cluster to verify etcd performance, instead has a layer in between, just like this contract does in terms of API, that would be useful.
Yeah, I'm not sure we actually have like a specific expectation on the performance characteristics of etcd. Like not at the storage layer. Like we're capable of functioning with really slow watches. And watches is primarily the thing that you would want SLOs for, generally not the writes.
I would. So I agree with Han that Kubernetes doesn't like. It's mostly how you use Kubernetes, not exact. Kubernetes doesn't have like really hard requirements, because if you use it correctly, etcd can be really slow, and Kubernetes will work because it will cache everything, almost every, like outside of events. So it's up to you to use Kubernetes correctly. On the other hand, I would find it useful to have SLOs for etcd, which is independent work. I mean, it's a follow-up.
I agree. Yes.
Follow-up, independent, focused on different properties, and
Yes.
for me, it's huge, like as an effort, because
Yes.
currently no one even measures watch latency, and this is like for me, like Han mentioned. I don't know if you mentioned like this is important, or maybe I misunderstood, but this is like for me crazy that I mean, last bug in etcd was about watch latency, and no one measures it. I mean, the last major issue that is still pending is about watch being starved. So yeah, it's a huge thing. Like, if you want to help, I mean, yeah, we just need more contributions. Like, it's a cooperative effort. With the document, there is no single person knew, I think, more than 50% of the contract. There's so much details that we found out during like discussions that I think I'm not sure if we got more than 90%. Like, I'm pretty sure we didn't get everything still.
I feel like it's pretty close, though.
It's close.
I mean, it's pretty close.
It's above 90%. I don't know if it's, but I'm not sure that that's 2 or 3 nines. But yeah, there are some, I think, details that I recently been watching in the presentation from Marcel that about how Kubernetes does something that he discovered recently or during his talk. So okay. I hope that this clarifies that, like or answers your question, that it's on our roadmap, or at least my roadmap, to do that. It's just far away because we it's another iteration on the contract. So for now, we are 7 minutes past the meeting time. So if you have any follow-up questions, please reach out on Slack or any methods mentioned on the GitHub, on etcd GitHub project. But for today, that's all. May the 4th be with you, and hope to see you next time. See ya.